Never Drop Your Sword podcast is for the creatively courageous.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Never Drop Your Sword podcast. I am your host, Callie Sioux, and today I have a woman of mystery, a young lady of some passion and grit, the author, Angela R. Watts, author of best-selling books and series, the Infidel Series and the Remanent Trilogy. And I'm excited to be talking to her today about why she keeps going with her art and why she never drops her sword. So welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited to talk to you today about your creative process and some other things that you've learned being a young artist. So first of all, before we get too far, tell me who you are, where you're from, and what's your favorite thing about art?
I'm Angela. I'm the best-selling author of the Infidel books and the Remanent Trilogy. I have some other books out. I think I have like 15 in print right now. And I'm working on a few different projects at the moment. So hopefully I can have some updates on that soon. I'm a Christian. I don't write strictly Christian fiction, but you know, God definitely kind of leads me in everything that I do. So it's pretty evident in most of my works. I'm also obsessed with animals. I really enjoy rescuing different kinds of pets and having tons of fun with that. And I'm a freelance editor. So that's my almost full-time job at the moment is editing with my amazing clients. So I think that's the rundown of who I am. And my favorite thing about art would be sharing it with other people. There's always a deep connection when you find a piece of art and you share it with someone and they understand it. So I think understanding art with other people is really, really fascinating, and I enjoy that part a lot.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, I always say, like, oh yeah, sure, you can be the best in your bedroom or, on your computer screen writing, but really what takes you to that next level is sharing it with people. And that really lets you know, are you the best or are you not? Anybody can kind of be a bedroom genius, but it really takes that following through with that next thing that gets your art and yourself to its next best level. Because as you would probably agree, there's levels to all of this, whether it's, being an author or musician or artist, like it's just a constant leveling up. And so, tell me a little bit about your artistic journey. I know that you've been writing since you were a kiddo. Were you homeschooled?
Yes,
nice.
We were all
Okay.
homeschooled. Yeah.
Nice. So there's a lot of writing involved, which is what homeschoolers do.
A lot. But my mom was actually really cool with that because she would kind of find what each of us enjoy doing and kind of hone in on that. Like for me, it was writing. So she kind of gave me creative freedom with that, which was dangerous. She might regret that sometimes.
So it started with her really encouraging you to read and to write. And then you started writing your own stories. How did that kind of develop from childhood to now?
I was extremely introverted. I've basically been a hermit most of my life. I'm working on that. But as a youngster, it was a creative outlet. I could kind of put my emotions into something productive. And once I realized social media was a thing, I started sharing some of those stories with other people. And, the stories were that of a 12-year-old. So not exactly Shakespeare level, but I remember being surprised that people actually read what I was putting out there. And that kind of, encouraged me to keep going with the writing. So I didn't finish a actual book till I was like 12. I think I finished my first novella at 12, but after that, it kind of just became second nature to keep, creating books and art and stuff.
Your first novella at 12, what was that one about?
Oh, I posted that online as like a serial story on my blog.
Oh, wow. You've been bold, maybe an introvert, but you've been bold a long time.
Yes. Yeah. Looking back on it, I honestly can't believe I did it, but I did remove it and it's gone forever.
Oh, no.
But I think it was like a urban fantasy almost.
Okay.
I'm like the main character lives like contemporary, but there's like a dragon in it or something. It didn't make a lot of sense, but somebody liked it, so I kept writing it.
Nice. So it just took that little bit of encouragement for you to be like, okay, I can do this.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, my mom and my dad were always super supportive, but I wasn't really used to getting a lot of encouragement from outside sources besides that. So one reader was all it took for me to keep going.
And then you also draw as well. So were you doing that art as well since you were little?
Yes. So I actually, when I was like 5, I illustrated a short, like a storybook. And I couldn't write at 5, sadly.
Yeah.
But somebody else wrote it down as I narrated it. So technically, my first completed book was actually what I did when I was like 5, because I illustrated it too. So I've also been drawing and stuff like that since I was super young. And that too helped me through some really hard times, just being able to put emotion into a form of art. I didn't share the artwork as much as I did the writing, because it was a little bit more violent for a while there, but it helped. It helped me, move through things. So it means a lot.
Nice. And you're talking about how your art has really helped you process some emotions, and you can get as deep as you want here, or as shallow. It doesn't really, it's your preference, but kind of talk me through some of the obstacles you faced physically, mentally, and spiritually on your artistic journey, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
So actually, the first complete novel that I wrote, I was dealing with a great deal of emotional abuse and trauma and things like that at the hands of my older sister. I'm one of my older sisters, and I wanted to work through that pain in a healthy way, because for a while there, I was drawing things, I was writing poems, and people honestly actually reached out and asked me if I was okay, if I was like suicidal or anything like that. So I wanted to kind of find a healthier way to move through what I was facing. And as a kid, my older sister was emotionally abusive, so there was that struggle. There was a lot of rejection when I was younger. And like I mentioned before, I've pretty much always been a hermit. So it's struggling to move through pain and also choose to still enjoy people, to still love people. I would put myself out there. So, Seek is my first completed novel that I wrote and published in my mid-teens, I think. And it does a pretty good job at kind of showing some of the things that I was working through, as far as my family goes. But I think that was probably the biggest trial of my life, because it's hard when family mistreats you, and it's hard when you view yourself as something that's unlovable. But through art and through writing, I was able to really realize how God sees me, how he sees us.
Yeah.
And that's not always how we are treated, or how we might view ourselves, but he's right. We are capable of being loved. We're, lovable. It was interesting to work through all of that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful pain, though, because you have chosen to transform that through what the Lord has done in your life, and also those decisions. I too have faced, family abuse, if you will, in that same kind of emotional way at a young age. And so I get what you're saying. And I know that a lot of people suffer through that, actually. I still have a wonderful, terrific family, but I went through a divorce. There was and she knows about this, so this won't be a surprise to her if she hears this episode, but I had this older cousin that I really, really looked up to. And she didn't really like kids, and I was the youngest of all my cousins. And so by 6 to 10 years, I was a lot younger than everybody. So I kind of grew up alone in comparison to all my cousins growing up together. And so I always wanted to hang out with them when they were all teenagers, and I was, just 11, 12. And she would always kind of push me to the side and pick on me a little bit. And I wrote her a letter when I was younger about how much I looked up to her, but I never gave it to her. I never sent it to her. And eventually over time, but same kind of thing, like the Lord really worked in my life. I dealt with a lot of depression and lots of stuff. But anyways, I get what you're saying about having to express that emotion and then working through it, and the different stages that God takes us through on all of those things is really important. And it's important to tell that person and work through it. And funny enough, somehow my mom found the letter, and she showed it to my cousin years and years later. And my poor cousin was just devastated. She really didn't realize what she was doing. And so she apologized and everything, and we're just the best of friends. But it's just funny, yeah. And sometimes it works, but then I have relationships in my family that have not healed, and that does shape our art so much, and how much we want to put into our characters too. So your inspiration obviously comes from your faith, from emotions you've experienced, but what else is you've gone through a bunch of trials. So what's the one thing that keeps you going? You could have quit writing then and there. You could have felt sorry for yourself and moved on, or even become more introverted where you couldn't express yourself. What's the one thing that keeps you going?
Actually, it's interesting because I think last year, the past few months, I've come the closest that I've ever come to actually quitting. And I don't quit. I never quit. I might try something new, but my dad taught us from a young age, do not ever quit. Mm-hmm. So that's always kind of stuck with me. If something's worth starting or trying, I don't want to stop doing it. I don't want to quit. Mm-hmm. But I think ultimately the reason that I keep pushing on, even when things become difficult, is God. I know that's cliche, I guess, but I firmly believe that, God has a reason for us to create, to write, to make something. And even if we have seasons of rest, seasons of just being quiet and just listening instead of creating a lot of things, that's fine too. But just keep going in the process. You don't have to stay stagnant in anything, and that's just kind of what I hold on to.
That's the whole point behind Never Drop Your Sword. For us, the sword is the Spirit of the Lord, the gospel, and that's what we're talking about. And we're like, don't drop that, don't lose that, because that is what is going to keep you going. That is what is going to encourage you when all else fails. So I love that. It's not cliche at all, at least not here, not in this space. We're going to be hearing it a lot, so it's good. So out of that, what are some healthy habits you've formed in your writing and your artistic journey?
So once again, for a long time, I did not focus on healthy habits very much. Again, it was strictly an outlet for emotions. So I was really pouring myself into it, and draining myself at the same time, because I didn't really know any better. Mm-hmm. But, the past year, I've definitely tried to be more consistent and taking care of myself, which for me, I have some fatigue issues. So that means sleeping, getting enough rest and stuff. I'm also trying to actually stop working at a certain point in the day, because I'll just keep working till 10 o'clock. I just wake up, do not stop till I go to bed. And that wasn't really healthy. So I am working on, stopping everything at 6 o'clock or whatever. And that's helped a lot. That gives me some time to just kind of exist, watch a show, whatever. And nobody really expects me to do anything then. And another healthy habit as an introvert is kind of maintaining my personal time as well, with social media and having a bunch of creative friends. It can be really easy to just constantly be texting or emailing or talking to people. But I know for me personally, I need time not talking to other people. So It was really nice to kind of take a step back and not respond to every text or whatever as soon as I get it. So I don't know if those are, super healthy tips, but they're working for me. So I'm doing a little better.
That's good, because our art does become all consuming. And
sure.
Especially when you're enjoying what you do, or if you have that same, I understand, I was definitely taught never to quit, ever, but I've come across limitations within my own body and within my mind and spiritually that I've really had to step back and sort out. And so that's good on you, because that'll really serve you well. You'll be able, I never listened to people when they told me this, you'll be able to do what you love longer if you take care of yourself now. I never listened to that, because it's if I can't do it anymore, then I guess I just won't. That's kind of how I thought about it, versus being logic, But that's just our young brains. So you said that you've got kind of some go-tos for your rest and your relaxing, maybe a show or just turning everything off for a minute. What are some of your go-tos for inspiration?
It actually kind of depends on what I'm working on. I noticed that, so when I'm doing darker stuff, like say I'm writing a dark fantasy or a post-apocalyptic thriller, I actually don't necessarily go to that genre specifically, but I go to a similar genre. Like I watch a lot of mafia TV shows and things like that, just to kind of get insight of what works at a human level. And that probably doesn't make any sense, but every book has characters facing a struggle. And a lot of the times, fantasy series, the arcs and stuff are very similar. So if I go to a genre that's kind of similar, but like just different enough, it really refreshes me. It gives me new ideas that I can place into a new genre and things like that. So that's a lot of fun. But I think ultimately I just like observing the world around me. For my last finished work was in middle grade. And for that book, I really kind of soaked in real life. I didn't really turn to any other fiction stuff. I didn't really brainstorm with anybody. I just kind of like went outside and started like noticing the small things in nature. And that worked for that book because that book was really focused on, God's creation and how we are a part of that. So gleaming in inspiration from real life, from fiction, bits and pieces of real life stories too. That's a lot of fun. The middle grade was hilarious because I wrote it in like 16 days, 17 days. Wow. And then I handed it over to my mom and she reads it and she's like, wow, like you took so many things from our family history that I didn't even know you remembered and you put it into a story. So just kind of paying attention to everything around me. It eventually probably will end up in a story.
I know, right? That's always the threat with musicians, with songwriters, and with authors is like, you better watch your P's and Q's or you're going to end up in a book or in a song. Middle grade too. So you've kind of, do you have plans to kind of, follow the muse and dabble in all types of genres?
Yes.
Nice.
That's actually been a very big decision that I've been making the past few months. I've really been struggling to decide what to do moving on, but I do think I'll probably dabble in a few different genres and continue in those genres. Like I don't stop a certain genre, but I might try another one, but they will all keep going. I won't quit any of them.
Has it been like, what have been some of the things rolling through your head these past couple of months that, like, what are the arguments for pursuing different genres versus staying in your same vein?
Well, for the longest time, so 2021 was the first year that I really threw myself into my writing career. I was investing a lot of time, a lot of money. I had multiple releases. I'm not sure how many books I released, but it was quite a few, most I've ever done. And then the year ended. I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do moving forward? Do I want to keep pumping out books? Do I want to write for market, which is, authors can do super well and make a lot of money by doing really popular genres.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't really enjoy those popular genres. So, what does that leave me with? Do I just write books and nobody reads them kind of thing? So it's been a struggle, but I do think I've come to the point of, if I trust God to lead me with each book, each story, then I'm going to have to trust him. He'll find an audience for it if I'm diligent and steadfast with what I'm doing in every area. And I think it's funny, and I'll share it because it's interesting to see what God does when you do what he wants. I've been writing dark fiction for years now. And I remember stepping back and writing a middle grade book and thinking, this is really out there. This is not what I'm used to doing. Will anybody actually like this? Because I don't write middle grade. So Winter of the Bees, my first middle grade book, was kind of jumping headfirst into doing what I thought God wanted me to do and just seeing what happened. And it was the first time that every single beta to read it cried. I think everyone cried except one, and I think she like teared up. But it was just interesting because I didn't actually expect anyone to truly enjoy that book. It was strictly me just doing what I thought God wanted for me, and she honestly touched people's hearts like straight off the bat. It hasn't even been published yet, and it actually made one beta. Like, she had a huge email, she sent it to me, and it was so precious, and it helps. So like, even if, you know, we don't make $1 million, or maybe we do, if you're creating something that God's telling you to do, I firmly believe that's enough. You know, maybe we won't hit the New York Times best-selling list, but if that's our goal, I don't want that goal. I feel like the past few months I've just been deciding why I want to do this. And my reasons are mine. You know, they're reaching people, they're touching people, they're doing what God wants me to do. So that's kind of where I've come to. We'll see where that takes me.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, Angela. That's something that I really relate to you on, and I could see that from the minute that I came across your names.
Did you enjoy part 1 of Angela's interview or what? Like, she has such an inspiration. She has an incredible spirit, and I really appreciate what she has to say. Truly, I do, because, you know, people will often look down on young folks as they're trying to sort through life and sort through things, and it's important to be able to listen to them, to hear them out, and to accept their experiences as valid, and watch them grow and learn, because they don't have all the answers when they're young. But Angela's on the right track. It is not sweater weather at the time of the release. This episode was filmed back in the winter in February. And so as of right now, Angela has actually published 20 books, and she is only 20 years old. More on that in part 2, but make sure you check the links below to learn more about Angela and read her books. Adios. Stay courageous.